Hello, everybody. Welcome to Deep Dive into Stock Charts. This is a new show we're doing. It's where we get in an in-depth look at the key features of StockCharts.com. I'm Chip Anderson. I'm the president of StockCharts.com, and I'm taking time out on my Saturday to make sure everybody knows how to use the website as effectively as they can. The goal here is to really focus in on a specific topic, and this week's topic is scanning, advanced scanning. So we're going to be taking an in-depth look into that. Here's the agenda for today's show. I'm going to give you an introduction to the general concepts of scanning and our advanced technical scanning tool. I'm going to show you how to use it. I'm going to give some demos. Then I'm going to show you my favorite technical scan, so you can copy that down if you want, and I'll tell you why you might want to use it, or I'll also tell you why you might not want to use it. And then we'll talk about how you can fix problems in your own scan. Scanning is something where you have to kind of try it and adjust it and tweak it and see what you like and don't like. And every now and again, you might hit a couple of road bumps. So we want to talk about that in the final thing. There's going to be QA throughout this show. This is deep dive. I really want to be able to answer all your questions. The only thing I ask at this point is that the questions be on topic. The questions be, in this case, on the topic of advanced technical scans. And just as a side note, I know there are lots of questions out there about our new ACP tool. We're going to be doing the next show. The next deep dive show will be all about ACP. So if you can hold off on those questions this time around, we'll get to them next time. I appreciate it. I've got Rachel with me. She's going to be working hard, answering the questions and then funneling the questions over to me over time. Hi, Rach.
Hello. Happy Saturday, everybody.
All right. So let's get into it. I'm trying to get through my slides here so that we'll have time for those Q&As. I've got a lot of slides. Hopefully I'll get through them all. And I've also got stopping points for Q&A too. So let's get this introduction over with. Advanced technical scanning. So scanning is the term we use here at StockCharts. You might also have heard the term screening. In our case, those are the same thing. There's no difference between a scan and a screen. We just use scanning as our name. The key thing to remember about scanning is it's all about trying to help you find stocks to buy. And specifically, it's trying to help you find stocks you might want to buy right now. It's all about the right edge of the chart. What's the most recent thing going on? You can use it for a couple of other scenarios. It's not quite as easy, but the most important and the easiest thing to use stock scanning for is to find stocks to buy right now. So if you've got some cash burning a hole in your pocket, scanning is a great place to start looking for what you could do with it. So essentially with a scan, you're asking us a question. You're saying, hey, StockCharts, please search your entire database of 80,000 ticker symbols. And honestly, I think that number's a little low now. I think it's a little higher than that. And show me all the symbols that meet my specific technical criteria. And that's the other important thing here. The criteria has to be technical in nature. By technical, I mean a technical symbol, or I'm sorry, a technical signal. And a signal is when something crosses something else on a chart. Think about all those lines on the chart that we do, the indicator lines, as well as the price bars, as well as the overlays, all those different lines. They're different points on a chart where one line crosses another line. That's a technical signal. Let's look at some examples here, okay? So here's a chart. This is actually kind of old, from 2010, but anyway, it'll still do. There are a whole bunch of technical signals on this chart. Can you spot any of them? Let me show you. Here's just some. But as these come across, I'll also mention that none of these are the most important technical signal on this chart. See if you can spot the most important technical signal on this chart. Do you see it? Here. It's this one right here. That's a technical signal where the MACD histogram, see the blue bars, they were below zero. And on the final day of the chart, the final bar on this chart, they moved from below zero to above zero. So in other words, they crossed above zero. And that's an interesting technical signal. The MACD is a very popular momentum indicator. You can learn more about it in chart school. But having the MACD signal line crossover happen, which is what this is showing, can be an interesting signal. Not a perfect signal. No signal is perfect. It's the combination of signals ultimately that you're gonna be looking for. But I think it's a really good example of a technical signal. It's pretty clear cut and it's easy to see, as you can see on this chart. So keeping this something crossing something else in mind is super important when you're designing your scans. So let's think about how can we turn that visual that we just looked at of something crossing something else into actual scan criteria. A scan itself is made up of some text strings, some things you have to type into the computer that kind of describe that visual that you're looking for. And so let me talk about the picture, the elements of a scan, the things that make up a scan, and then we'll look at a specific scan that describes the chart we just saw. So generally, a scan consists of one or more clauses. And a clause in turn consists of a left expression, some kind of comparison operator, and a right expression. I'm going to give you examples of this in just a second. But so a scan will be one or more clauses, and each clause has a left, a right, and a comparison operator in the middle. And then the clauses are joined with either the word and or the word or. So you're doing one clause and another clause. In other words, both things have to be true before the scan will pull the stock for you. Or you can do one clause or another clause. In other words, either clause 1 or clause 2 can be true. Then the scan will show you that particular result. So and your scan can build up. You can have as many clauses as you need, but all of them have to be joined by and or. So this is the kind of the high level definition of what a scan looks like. Let's now look at a specific example. Okay, so we'll go back and do the same thing with specific example. So a lot of our scans will start with type equals stock. So type is the left expression, equals is the comparison operator, and stock is the right expression. We have stock, we have index, we have mutual fund, we have a couple of other things that a symbol's type could be. But then the next line down would be and SMA 20 comma volume, which is an expression. SMA stands for simple moving average. I think we all know what that is. And then this is a 20-day, in this case, 20-day simple moving average of volume greater than 40,000. So right there, we're screening out stocks which have low volume. We're not interested in those in this particular case, in this particular example. And then another and then MACD hist. So that's our abbreviation for the MACD histogram with the parameters 12, 26, 9. Again, if you're familiar with the MACD, you'll know those are the default parameters. They're very commonly used. You don't have to use them, but that's the parameters that were used on the chart we were just looking at. So we duplicate those parameters here in the scan. And then we have a crossover operator, the X, and then we have 0. So remember, we were trying to find the situation where the histogram was below 0 yesterday, and then it crossed above 0 today. And so that X operator that you see there in the pink square, that stands for crosses above. It's not multiplication. It's not anything else. It's a symbol kind of we invented. It stands for crosses above. So MACD histogram 12.26.9 crosses above 0. So what this scan is saying is show me all stocks that have average volume greater than 40,000 shares a day and where the MACD histogram crossed above 0. In other words, that chart that we just saw a second ago. And so if we run a scan like this, StockCharts will show us all of the stocks in our database that meet that criteria and have charts looking very similar to the one we just saw. Now, there's one final thing we got to remember with scans. I'll show it here. All of those different clauses, for reasons that just are, they have to be surrounded by square brackets. And so the square brackets are kind of a pain, but just kind of remember that, and we will help you with that as I'll show you here in my demo in just a minute. So we see that the clause number 1 has its own square brackets, then we have and we have clause number 2 with its own square brackets, and the final clause has its square brackets as well. So that's actually a full-blown scan. That's a scan we could run right now if all we have to do is get it entered into our scanning workbench. So that's what I want to demo right now. So I'm going to switch over to my demo machine. And I want to show you how you can enter this kind of criteria into the scan workbench and get things going. So here I am at my members dashboard. So I've just logged in and this is what I see. By the way, I'm going to give you a little side note, little quick side note. Hopefully this is okay. We have a new feature. I want to show you a new feature. We're diving deep, so I can do that. Over here on the right on our member dashboard, we now have another thing added to the drop down that you have here. Normally you'd see something like top 10, or maybe you've customized it to show ticker cloud or other kinds of things. These are all different things you can customize in here. We now have a new item, just added it on Friday, sector summary. And I encourage you to try it out, check it out. It's going to show you the 10 important US sectors sorted initially by percent change. And so you can see over the course of the day which sectors are doing well. Anyway, all right, so that was a side note. Let's get back to scanning. So you can get to the scan workbench in a couple of different ways. One way is to click here in Members Tool, Advanced Scan Workbench. You can also, though, scroll down just a little bit, and there's a box in the members dashboard called Your Scans, and it's going to show you if you have any saved scans, they'll be in this drop down. And if not, you can always press plus and create a new scan here. And there are a couple other things you can click on, but I'm going to just click on plus. I could click here, I could click up there, but I'm going to click right here. And that's going to take me right to our advanced scan workbench. Okay. And the advanced scan workbench is the workbench that we prefer everyone use. It's a little intimidating because of all the options that are available, but that's what we're doing today is I'm taking you through these options. And I think they'll help you out. Now, the goal of the advanced scan workbench is for you to type your criteria like we just went over into this box here. And we have recently, if you haven't looked at this in a while, we have recently made some big improvements into the scan editor. This is the advanced editor. I've turned it on. If you don't have it on, you can turn it on using the button over here. And this editor is going to help you. It's going to give you automatic suggestions as you type for what you kind of want. It's also got a really fun button right here called Reformat that I want to point out. It doesn't look super sophisticated, but I like this button a lot. It will immediately take your scan and put it into a format that will make it really helpful for you, but with one clause per line, which is what we prefer. Okay, so by definition, it starts out with a default scan type equals stock. That's what we wanted. And daily SMA 20 of daily volume greater than 40,000. That's actually what we had in that slide I showed you a minute ago. So all we have to do is now add that final little bit, which remember was the MACD histogram. So I'm just going to start typing here and, okay. And then I'm going to do a square bracket and I'm going to type MACD. And you can see it's suggesting different things that I could put in here. And so in our case, I want MACD, maybe I couldn't remember. Is it MACD hist? Is it MACD histogram? Is it MACD something else? Well, here, I've got the suggestion right here. I'm going to click and it's going to automatically add that with a suggested criteria to my scan. So that's really helpful. And then finally, we don't want MACD histogram to be greater than 0. We want MACD histogram to cross above 0. So I'm going to go back and replace the greater than sign that it suggested with an X, which is the crosses above indicator. And boom, there I'm done. I literally only typed about 5 characters and I clicked once and I was able to get that criteria in very, very quickly. I can run check syntax to make sure that everything's good, and it is. And it says my syntax is correct. I don't have to do that, but I could. And then finally, the whole point of this is to run the scan. So now I'm going to click run scan and we see the results coming back. And here are the results. And the first thing that's interesting is how many results did I get? So of the however many stocks we have in our database, 80,000 or more, 253 matched that particular criteria that I wanted. That's a lot. That's probably too many for me to manually wade through. So, and we'll talk about in just a minute, we'll talk about more about kind of how to pare that down. But the point is I can now see all of those stocks if I wanted to, and I can see some of them are in Canadian stock markets. Some of them are in the NYSE or the NASDAQ. Some of them are in London, so on and so forth. I can see some of them have sector and industry designations, so on and so forth. I can click on one. I'm gonna, this will be a little bit of a test. I haven't actually looked here, but we'll click on Semtrex, a NASDAQ stock, and we'll see what we end up with. So here's Semtrek, a NASDAQ stock. And we can see it's a little hard because of the scale has gotten pretty low, but we can see that the MACD histogram now has a value of 001, I guess yesterday it had a value that was below 0. So we can see that it did make that MACD histogram crossing above 0 signal that we were looking for. So in just a minute, I'm going to give you a better way to look at all these things, but I just wanted to quickly show you that, hey, we found a bunch of stocks and they do indeed have the crossover that we were looking for. The fact that we found so many is one of the reasons that we probably need a normal scan, a scan you'd actually use in the real world, would have more than just one technical signal. It would have several bits of criteria to try and narrow things down to a much more manageable number of results. All right, so that's my simple, quick kind of scanning demo. Let me go back to my slides and see. I want to give you a couple of tips, and then we're going to dive back into a more advanced example here. Again, as I mentioned, focus on crossover signals. When people come to us in customer support and other things, a lot of times they'll suggest that they're trying to create a scan that has some fuzzy kinds of criteria. The criteria isn't really well defined. For the computer to actually work effectively, you need to have it very well defined. And the best thing you can do is try and narrow down what you're looking for into a series of crossover signals. If this crosses over that and that crosses over this, then you'll be interested. And so that's what you want to be trying to narrow things down to. Crossover signals are the way to start. Yeah, and as I mentioned, the fuzzy concepts are harder. And an example of a fuzzy concept is within. Find all the stocks within the past 30 days that have done this. The scan engine is all about the right edge of the chart. It's not about a range of dates. It's possible to do some of that stuff, and I'll show you an example in a minute, but it's still not great. The scan engine is much better used for finding stocks where a particular set of signals is happening right now. So keep that in mind too. Typically, your scan is going to return one of three things. It's either going to return an interesting number of stocks, like in our case, my scan returned 253, or it's going to return 0, or it's going to return 999, which means that if there's some huge number of results and we've just given up. At 999, we don't go any further. That's as far as we go, because you really do need to have, at that point, we're saying you need to narrow your conditions down more. More than 1,000 results is not something that's worth looking at. So you can do that. Now, the final thing, and I'll demo this in just a minute, you want to save your scan, in addition to looking at your scan results like we just did on my screen a minute ago, you can also save your results into a chart list. And that's a really great approach, because then you can spend some time narrowing down those results even more. And a great way to do that is with candle glance. So we'll look at that in just a second too. Okay. Rachel, I'm going to stop right here. Do we have any questions at this point?
We actually have lots of questions.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Fancy that.
Okay. I was looking for one from Judy. She wants to know what the difference is between type and group.
Type and group, those are great questions. There's a whole area of our website where we get into the syntax of these scans, and we define each one of these capabilities in very, very specific detail. All of that's in the help area of our site under scan engine. You want to search specifically for something called scan syntax. So let me talk just for a second. I want to now show you a much more complex scan. This is a scan that has a lot of features that you might find useful. It also has, I just wanted to give you something that's more representative of a real world scan as opposed to that simple one we just did. So this one starts out with type equals stock and country equals US and close is greater than 2. All of these are different criteria that I personally selected, and it has to do with my personal style for investing. I'm only interested in US stocks. I'm only interested in stocks with a fairly high price relative to penny stocks and that kind of thing. So by having close greater than 2, I'm only looking at those stocks. I'm not looking at the penny stocks. so on and so forth. So immediately I have narrowed down my focus. Now, the rest of the clauses break into two big categories. The first thing I'm interested in doing is finding stocks with increasing relative strength. Hopefully, you know, relative strength means that those stocks are outperforming similar stocks in a group. And there are several different ways to measure relative strength, but we have a really good one here at StockCharts. It's called the StockCharts Technical Rank. Now, I may do another whole deep dive show on StockCharts Technical Rank at some point in the future. But for now, and you can learn more about it by searching for it in our help system. But basically, the StockCharts Technical Rank is a number between 0 and 100 that we use to calculate how well a stock is doing based on several technical criteria. It's all defined in chart school. But basically, it's how well we think the stock is doing technically. And it's a relative ranking, meaning that stocks with a high number, say 90 or above, are doing much, much better than all of the other stocks in their particular group from a technical perspective. So it's not just performance, it is also looking at a whole bunch of other technical indicators all wrapped up into one number. And so given that exists, the scooter number exists, how could we search for it? And how can we find stocks with increasing relative strength based on scooter? Well, what you can see there in that first big collection of and clauses is I start with and today's scooter, the StockCharts Technical Rank, SCTR, we abbreviate with the name scooter. So and today's scooter is greater than 90. So I don't want to look at any stock where the scooter for today is less than 90. But in addition to that, I want to find stocks where today's scooter is greater than or equal to yesterday's scooter. And I mean, that literally just almost reads right off the page. There's not a whole lot of translation I have to do there. It's almost human readable. And yesterday's scooter is greater than or equal to 2 days ago scooter, and 2 days ago greater than 3 days ago, and 3 days ago greater than 4 days ago. I can do as many of those clauses as I want. All it's doing there is finding a situation where the stock scooter is greater than 90 and it's been increasing for the past 4 days. So it's not just that it's above 90, but it's been trending and going upwards over the past 4 days. Now, you can do that with any indicator. There are lots of other indicators you might be interested in, the MACD histogram, the RSI, so on and so forth. Any technical indicator could be used in the same way, the way that I'm doing here, just to see if it's been going up for a couple of days. And so hopefully everyone kind of sees how that goes. Now, in addition to finding stocks with increasing relative strength, I also want to find stocks specifically that have increasing momentum. And in my case, I'm going to use the PMO. The PMO is an indicator that was invented by Carl Swinland, and the decision point people talk about it. You might have seen Aaron Swinland talk about it in the past. So the PMO is an indicator similar to the MACD, just a little more deliberate in its movements. And in this case, I want to do the same thing that I did with the scooter. I want to make sure that the PMO is positive, and I want to make sure that it's been increasing for the past 4 days. And that's what those clauses show. And the final thing I want to do is I want to rank all of these, any results that I get from this scan, I want to rank by the scooter rate, the scooter number. So the stocks with the highest scooter will appear first, and then lower and lower and lower, so on and so forth. All right, so let me show you this scan in action. We'll go back to my demo machine. I'm going to click on my dashboard, and then I have this scan already saved in my account. So I can just come down here and select a scan, and there we go. I believe this is it. Let's find out. We're going to start by editing the scan. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is similar. I meant to update this. This is similar to the one that I showed on the screen. Not exactly the same kind of concept though. So regardless of what the scan was, I'm going to run this one, and then we can see the results. Now in this case, I got back 5 results. And those results might be very interesting to me, or they might not. But it certainly means that I don't have to look at 80,000 stocks. I don't have to look at 256 stocks. I can look, the point is we're trying to get a scan that's going to reliably return to me a interesting number of stocks that I can then spend a little time analyzing, maybe in the evening before I go to bed or whatever, and I can make decisions. We can also see that these stocks have been returned, ordered by their scooter ranking. So the highest one is at the top, lowest one is at the bottom. Now I can click on the name of each one of these and see a detailed sharp chart for that one, or I can do what I recommend instead, which is I can store these results in a new chart list. So up here at the top, under available actions, I've got a bunch of different possibilities, but store these results in a new chart list is generally a good idea. And we're going to do this. I'm going to hit preserve sort order just because, and I'm going to hit OK. So now prior to this, those stocks were not stored in my account. I'd run the scan and I'd seen the results, but the results were not stored in my account. And if I closed my browser or went away, those results would have disappeared. Now those results have been copied and stored in a chart list inside my account, and I can do anything I want to with them that I could do with a regular chart list. I can view them in any one of these chart list views. I can use them in additional scans, so on and so forth. What I'm going to do, though, and I think this is a really useful thing to do for when you're reviewing your scan results, is I'm now going to view these results in candle glance mode. If you remember, candle glance is our mini charts, the little charts that you can use to compare different stocks back and forth. I don't have a ton of results here, and this would be even more useful if I had, say, 20 results or 25 results. I've got 5 here. We can still kind of simulate what's going on. So what I can do now is I can just say, hey, do these stocks have the characteristics I was trying to find when I created my scan? Are they moving upwards? And are they moving upwards with good strength? And I think in general, just looking at them quickly, yeah, they've all been moving higher for the past couple of days, if not the past couple of weeks, if not since the beginning of September or even into August in some cases. So that's kind of nice. Let's say for the kind of investor that I am, that's kind of nice. You might be the kind of investor that wants to find different stocks, and that's fine. But just bear with me. Pretend that you're the kind of investor looking for momentum plays and stocks that have already demonstrated they have been moving upward strongly. And so here we go. I can also come in and add a couple of things to this. I can add an indicator to these charts. In fact, the indicator I'm going to add is called Scooter Line. SCTR line is one of the indicator choices I've got here. And if I hit go, what I can do here is verify that the scooter line was doing what I wanted it to do in my scan. In other words, my scan was looking for the scooter line continuing to move higher for the past couple of days. And we can see that all of these scooter lines have either been higher or actually maxed out for the past couple of days. And so that's great. It means our scan was working. Finally, I can come in and maybe decide, hey, some of these stocks I am interested in. Some of these stocks, though, I'm not interested in. So, for instance, a WHR, Whirlpool, had a gap up the other day, and it had a big kind of interesting little doji here 2 days ago. And its moving average lines are crossing and are kind of the red one in particular, which is the 50-day moving average, has been flat. So let's just say I'm not super interested in that one because I think the other ones are more interesting. So I can click on the little trash can here. So I can manually decide which ones of these I want to keep and which one of these I want to get rid of. Just by clicking on the trash can, which appears when I hover over, I have deleted that chart from that chart list. It's no longer existing. Similarly, we have some crossover situations and flatness with Colony Capital. So just let's pretend that I'm not interested in that. And honestly, the red line is going down on USCR, so I'm not interested in that. I'm now left with 2 really strong stocks where the blue line is above the red line and both lines are moving higher. And both stocks appear to be maybe ready to break out to even higher highs. So I might spend a little bit of time. Again, this is an example. I'm not recommending anybody buy these stocks. I don't have that capability, but an example of 2 interesting stocks to look at: Omega Flex and JBSS. And at this point, I'm very happy with those. Maybe at this point, what I'm going to do is I'll click on it, and now I can use the full power of Sharp Charts to really dig in to John B. Filippo and Sons, and figure out more about that. So that was just a quick demo. The demo is find your scan, continue to add criteria to it, run the scan until you get a reasonable number of results back, save those results into a chart list, and then use Candle Glance to continue to narrow it down until you have a very small set of really interesting charts to look at. Okay, so getting back to the presentation, any other questions at this point, Rachel?
Yeah, but before we get to that, I might want to point out that when you use that trash can icon on the Candle Glance view, it deletes it once you click it. So
yes, it's a scary thing.
You could possibly, lose a chart you didn't want to lose. But no worries, if you actually delete a chart list, we can usually restore them. Anyway, going back to questions, we have a question from Dan S. When looking for crosses, how do we limit them to bullish or bearish?
Okay. Looking for crosses, how do we limit them to bullish or bearish? So I'm going to assume that you're talking about bullish crossovers versus bearish crossovers.
Yes, I believe that's what the question is.
Right. And so I mentioned we have the little X operator that I demonstrated where it's crossing above 0, for instance, or you can have it crossing above 100 or crossing above whatever number. That X operator always works the same way. It's always a crosses above operator. We do not have a crosses below operator, but that's okay. We don't need one, because instead, if you want to do a crosses below, it's just a little trick. It might seem a little weird, but once you think about it, it's okay. If you want, I demonstrated MACD histogram crossing above 0. So let's say we wanted to get the MACD histogram crossing below 0. What we do is we take MACD hist X0, and you just switch the position of the 0 and the MACD hist. So the crosses above, like I showed, MACD hist X0. If you want the crosses below, you would do 0 X MACD hist. It may not make immediate sense to you the first time you do it, but it totally works, and that's the trick.
Perfect. And we also do have a predefined scan for a bullish 50-200-day MA crossover as well. You can take those scans, load them into the advanced scan engine as a predefined scan, and then you can see exactly how that all works out. Okay,
well, let's push forward. So the next thing I want to do is talk about some of the common pitfalls, some of the little issues that might come up as you try and explore your own scans, create your own scans, and move forward with them. So we're going to talk about fixing advanced scan problems as they occur. So as I mentioned, we consider it a best practice as you're writing your scans to put one clause per line. A lot of people will start out and they'll write a scan and they'll send it into customer support, and it's all jumbled together. It's all on one line, really long. It's very hard to figure out what's going on when you do that. We've actually, as I demonstrated a minute ago, we've editor that will automatically put your scan into this format, because we think it's really, really helpful. It's helpful in two ways. One, you can read your scan and you get a very good sense of what the structure of the scan is. But two, as I'm showing down here, it's also going to help you with debugging your scan, with finding problems in your scan, because you can put a symbol in front of each line of your scan to turn that line on or off. In other words, we've got you can actually do it in either way. You can use a hashtag at the start of any line of your scan, or you can use two of these front slash symbols. And if you put either a hashtag or a front slash in the front of any line of your scan, the entire rest of that line is ignored by the scan engine. It is treated as a comment. And you could actually write little English comments to yourself if you wanted to. But as I'm going to demonstrate in just a second, you can also use it to turn on or turn off these clauses. It becomes really, really useful. So let's look into that. So when I talk about debugging scans, I'm talking about finding a problem with a scan where you're getting results that you didn't expect or that you're confused about. Why am I getting these kind of results? And as I mentioned earlier, there are three different kinds of results you're going to get when you run the scan. When you run a scan, the very first thing you should look at is the number of results you got back. And you're either going to get back 0, or you're going to get back 999, or you're going to get back some other number between 0 and 999. The goal is to get back some other number, ideally around 20 or so, but it depends. If you get 0 or 999, there's a problem. And so let's talk about what that problem is and how we can fix it. So let's say you get back 0 results. You run your scan and you get back 0 results. What is going on? Why did I get back 0? Well, it's one of these 4 things. It's almost always one of these 4 things. Either your scan has too many clauses, meaning that you have too many ands in your scan, and therefore no stock is actually meeting all of those criteria. When you join stuff together with ands, in order for a stock to be returned, it has to meet all of those criteria. And if you have too many ands, then maybe no stock, it meets those things. So in that case, your scan is too narrow, and you might have to back some of those clauses out. It's also possible that you put in a clause there, maybe by accident, that is always false. And if a clause always returns false and it's joined with all the other clauses using ands, then you're not going to get back any results. Also, it's possible that you have 2 clauses that are mutually exclusive, meaning that when one is true, the other has to be false, and vice versa. So in that case, no stock will be able to satisfy both of them, and therefore no results will be returned. And then finally, something else to consider is that you're running a scan, and the scan finds a whole lot of great stocks when the market's moving higher, but maybe right now the market's moving lower. And so for this market condition, there's just no stocks that are meeting that particular criteria. So you have to consider that too. But you can use these techniques I'm about to show you to validate and better understand why you're getting 0 results. So here's an example scan. Let's look at this one. You can see it on the screen. Group is S&P 500, and today's triple top breakout is true. That's a P&F pattern. And yesterday's triple top breakout is false, and so on and so forth. Everyone see all the different criteria that we've got here. So when we run this scan, we get back 0 results. Well, all right, so what's going on, and how do we figure this out? Well, what we do is we investigate the problem by disabling the clauses one by one, using the hash symbol and the slashes I was showing you a second ago. We're going to disable the clauses one by one until we get some results back. And as soon as we get results back, then we're going to look at the very last clause that we disabled, because that might be the culprit. So in other words, let's do that. So what I've done right now is I've stuck / in front of the last clause. That's why it's really nice to have these in this format. I can just simply go in, type // I've now disabled this entire bottom clause. So we can run the scan again, and we do, but in this case, we're still going to get back 0 results. What that probably means is the last clause was not the culprit. Okay, but let's now do it again. We're going to now disable the final 2 clauses, run it again, and see what happens. And this is just as an experiment. We're trying to learn more about why we're getting back 0 results. So now we got back some results. The fact we got back some results the results we got back is not important. It's the fact that we got back more than 0 is important. So that means that this clause that we just commented out, this next to last clause, is probably the culprit. So he's been cornered, and we're going to look hard at this last clause we disabled. That one right there. So what's going on with that clause? Well, it was today's SMA 50 close greater than SMA 50 close, which is also, if we don't change it, that means today's SMA is greater than today's SMA, and that's no good. Can't happen. That's always false. So this is just a typo. We forgot to type the word yesterday's. Is pretty clearly what we intended to type. And so if we add that in, then everything's good. And we can uncomment all of those clauses back out, and now we can run our scan and we'll get the results we expected. So that's one example. The other, excuse me, the other issue we have is we might get 99 or 999 results. As I mentioned, that's as high as we go. So what does that mean? One of these 4 things is going on. We have too few clauses. Our scan is too broad. We have a clause that's always true. And by far the most likely case, we have unbracketed OR clauses, and I'll show you about that in just a minute. Or our comparison operator somehow got backwards. We think it's a greater than, and in fact, it's a less than. These are very, very common situations and good things to look for when you're getting back 999 results. So here's a scan, and it gives us back 999 results. Let's look, and looking at it, we can immediately find one of the issues. One of the issues is here in the second line. Today's close greater than 1 or today's close less than 2. And. So what you have to remember is that the computer, when it executes the scan, it doesn't see these line breaks. It doesn't see that this is on one line and this is on another line. It just looks at it as one big long string. And in the case of OR, if it doesn't get any additional information from you, it's going to use everything before the OR as one and everything after the OR, including all the next lines and so on and so forth, as the other part of the OR. That's not what we really intended. We just intended the OR to apply to this clause or this clause. We did not intend it to apply to any of the other clauses in our scan. And so in order to do that, we have to add some additional brackets. Here, no, this is how it should be. Anytime you write an OR, you're going to need to add additional square brackets to indicate which two clauses you want to OR together. And so now we've done it properly. I've added additional bracket opening here and an additional closing bracket there. So that fixes the OR problem. Unfortunately, when we run the scan, we're still getting 999 results. And so there's something else going on, and we got to think about this a little harder. Well, today's close greater than 1 or today's close less than 2. If you think about that for half a second, you'll realize that's always true. A number is always either greater than 1 or less than 2. This is not an OR situation. What we are trying to do, if you think about it for a second, what we're trying to do is find stuff where the close is between 1 and 2. We've just done it wrong, is the problem. Okay, it's not really an OR situation in this case, because OR means combined with. We're taking all the results from this clause and combining it with all the results from this clause. If we do that, that's everything. So the second line is always true. What we really intended and what this situation really is an and situation. Today's close greater than 1 and today's close less than 2. That's going to get us what we want, which is the close, between 1 and 2. So it requires just looking at the scan and thinking about it a little harder to see exactly what's going on. Now, there's one final situation where you get back some results, you like those results, but you look at it and you're not the results that you expected. You look at a chart and you go, hey, this chart should not have been returned by the scan engine. What's going on? Well, you're either not using the right expressions, maybe there's some date offset problems, or you're looking at intraday data when the scan engine is looking at end of day data. We'll talk about those in a minute. The solution here is to create a chart for the exact signals you're scanning for and add symbol starts with, and then whatever that symbol is to limit the results. Let me show you what I mean, okay? So here's a case. I've got a scan. Type is stock and close greater than open, and high is greater than max 200 high. I'm trying to find stocks where they're at a setting new 200-day highs, okay? And one of the things that it came back with was Apple. This is from a while ago, back in the heyday of Apple in 2012, where it was setting new highs. I know it's not quite doing that anymore, but if we run the scan, we get back 0 results, but we know that Apple is setting a new 200-day high at this point. And so we should have at least gotten Apple back as a result from the scan, and we didn't. So that's confusing to us. And so one thing we could do would be to write in customer support and say, hey, why is this not working? But what I want to do is maybe show you, how you can do this without writing into customer support and find it on your own. It's the same process again. We're gonna comment out the last line and run it and see what happens. So in this case, we commented out the first line and we reran the scan. We got back 999 results, which is not great. It's not too helpful. That's not giving us any useful information. We need to narrow this down some. And so the way we narrow it down in this case is we are specifically interested in, for testing purposes, we're specifically interested in Apple. We think Apple is the stock that should have been returned and it wasn't. So as a test, we're going to add another line of criteria to the top of our scan, and symbol starts with AAPL. So that's going to just return Apple or not. And so when we now run the scan, remember the last line's commented out, we run the scan and it returns one result. Guess what it is? It's Apple. That means that the problem is with the clause that we've commented out. In other words, we ran the scan without the comments, we would get back 0 results. We run the scan with the comments, we get back the 1 result. So that means this clause here is the problem, okay? And so that's the culprit that's returned. And now we're going to collect relevant data by looking at the sharp chart and just manually doing what the scan engine is doing. We're going to pretend to be the scan engine. Here's the criteria: high greater than max 200 high. All right. So what is the value of high on this final bar? Well, it is, in this case, 606.90. So we stick that in our little table. Now, what is the value of max 200 high? So what is the highest high over the past 200 days? And clearly, that's also, there we go, those are all the days. It's also 606.90. So now we substitute that in and we say, is 606.90 greater than 606.90? No, it isn't. Okay, well, that's the problem. We thought it was, but it isn't. So we are doing something wrong. Does everybody see what we might be doing wrong? We really need to be comparing today's high to the max 200 high as of yesterday. We can't include today's high in our maximum calculation. And when we do that, then it's going to fix. This is a very common error. A lot of people, when they're using max and min, are functions that you can use to find highs and lows. And you have to remember not to include today's data in the max or the min calculation. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, 2 more things. We'll take some more questions and then we'll be good to go. There's the within issue. I mentioned this earlier. The scan engine is not really good with the word within. It doesn't like ranges of information. It likes really to find what's going on now. So it's all about that final bar. And we've already also talked about this one. This is a very common one. Every time you use or, you have to add more brackets. This particular scan is going to include stocks that closed below 25, even though we've said we want the close to be above 25. Why is that happening? Well, it's because the scan engine, when it looks at this clause, isn't smart enough to know that we're thinking about country equals US or country equals Canada as one thing, and close greater than 25 is the other thing. It sees close greater than 25 and country US equals US as one thing, and it sees country equals Canada as the other thing. So we're going to get Canadian stocks that are below 25 if we run the scan. Instead, we need to add brackets to ensure that the scan engine is just focused on what we think it should be focused on. Hopefully that makes sense. Final thing, there's some speed tips you can use. Some of our scans take longer if you don't do these speed tips. It's not a huge deal, but it's just something to keep in mind. Put the easy stuff first. Things that put scans into categories, groups, exchanges, types, countries, or that starts and ends with for the ticker symbol. Those kinds of expressions are very quick to evaluate, and they're going to greatly reduce the number of stocks that we have to look at when we run the scan. So those are easy things. Always put them first in your scan criteria. And then anything that involves number computation, like technical indicators or other kinds of arithmetic expressions, those need to go in the last part of your scan. And so for instance, here's an example. This scan here, green Ichimoku cloud is true. Don't worry too much about what that is. You can look that up, and it's a technical indicator. It's actually one of the more difficult ones for the scan engine to compute. So if that's true and symbol starts with Z, so that's a scan. We run that particular scan, it's going to take 19 seconds to return back the results because it's computing this difficult to compute technical indicator for all of the stocks in our database. And then it's seeing which ones start with Z. On the other hand, if you reverse it, you have symbol starts with Z and the technical indicator is true. it takes only 88 milliseconds. Super, super quick, because it immediately throws out all the stocks that don't start with Z, and it only calculates the hard thing for the ones that do. So much, much, much faster. All right. Takeaways. Scan results are just the starting point for further technical research. The goal of running scans, again, is to get the scan that returns to you a reasonable number, 20, 50, somewhere in there, of charts that you think are interesting and are worth your time to dig down deeper into using StockCharts. If you can create a scan that reliably returns around those number of stocks for a particular market, a bullish market or a bearish market or whatever, then it's saving you a ton of time and really streamlining your approach to investing. Here are some helpful resources. I didn't mention that I haven't mentioned. The first is we have an advanced scan library inside of our help system. That is a collection of scans that other users have created and submitted to us. They're great starting points, great learning. You can look at them and see how those scans were put together and probably learn some more. The final thing is we actually have an entire separate bulletin board system for user-to-user help. Scanning is something that the support team here at StockCharts can help you with to a certain degree, but there's a point at which the support team here kind of will not be able to help you. If you're asking them for very specific information about writing a scan or writing a difficult scan, they're only going to be able to help you to a certain degree. However, on our user-to-user message board, are users that are willing to help you with everything. They're super great. They're wonderful people. They're very friendly and they're very helpful. Quite coincidentally, and it is actually a coincidence, the user-to-user help board is called the StockCharts Answered Network, or SCAN for short. They can talk about anything. They do not talk about just scans, but it turns out that a lot of what they answer are questions about scanning, and so they're very good at it. The URL is there, scan.stockcharts.com. You can go anywhere. You have to sign up, but it's all free. And user-to-user help is a wonderful, wonderful thing. All right, so that's the end of my slides. Before I say thank you, Rachel, do we have any other questions?
Well, pretty much you're explaining the advanced scan library, which is this incredibly useful source that covers actually a lot of these questions that have been coming in. So let's see here. So we have one fella, JC. He wants to know how he can scan for stocks that have been around longer than 20 years.
So the scan engine is limited in the amount of data that it can have. Basically, in order to run our scans so quickly, we load up all price data into this big, huge monster server. And there's a limit on how much data that server can contain. Again, 80,000 plus times all the different days that every single one of those things traded. So I believe the scan engine at this point only goes back, is it roughly 10 years? I think so. We are looking at trying to increase that number. I don't know if that number will ever get super high though. And so for scans that go back a long ways, not really something we're going to be able to do. Sorry about that.
Sorry, JC. And then just one more thing as you conclude this presentation, if you could I set up a new poll on there because I want to see how useful this presentation has been for you. So anyway, we'd really appreciate it if you just took that 2 seconds to click one of those little radio buttons.
Yeah, awesome. For the poll on the side of the StockCharts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're looking at it live, the poll will be there. If you're watching the YouTube, it won't, but that's fine.
So far, we've got 100% and yes.
Okay, well, terrific. Hopefully this has helped you. Again, I really want to just strongly first thank you for being StockCharts members and for watching my show. And then also just encourage you to play with the scan engine. You really can't hurt yourself. It's a very, very powerful, flexible tool, but unfortunately, to have that much flexibility, it does require a little bit of a learning curve. That's what I'm trying to help you through today. We've got our support team, our online support, more videos, all about scanning. We're here to help. And so hopefully that will get you going forward and you can create some really useful scans for yourself. In the future, deep dive. Again, next time we're going to be covering ACP. We're going to take a deep dive into ACP. It's super popular. People want to know about it. And there will be more to talk about. We're also, though, going to have future deep dives about alerts, future deep dives about sharp charts and charting styles, future deep dives about all the different areas of the website. Really, really get down and dirty into all the different capabilities that we have here on the site, so you can get the most bang for your buck. Again, thanks for watching, everybody.